Hi everybody, it's James from dreamweavertutorial.co.uk and today we're going to be creating a product rotator. Now this product rotator is a great way for you to showcase the products you have for sale on your website. So we'll create a small 4 images gallery and attach a script which will cycle through the images while simultaneously displaying a larger image in the main window. You can hover over the smaller images which will bring them into focus with a raised opacity. And as an extra bonus, we're going to attach an image tooltip script so that when we hover over the product in the main window, an enlarged product image appears, so your potential buyers will be able to inspect the product more closely. Now, this product rotator looks quite complex, but it really isn't. We only need 4 images and 2 scripts to achieve this design, which makes it lightweight and fast loading. The images used in this tutorial and the scripts are available for a free download from our website, so if you're watching from YouTube, just click on the link in the description box. So I've managed to combine my product rotator within this sales page to give you an idea of how to incorporate it into your Dreamweaver website. If I get enough requests in the comment section, I'll also make a tutorial showing you how to make this sales page too, which includes creating a table, a small description and a nice product title. For now though, we're just going to concentrate on creating the element as the product rotator. Now I recommend you download the file and create a new site, define a new site. I've called mine Protator and I've got 4 images and I've got 2 script files there. So I'm going to create a new HTML document, blank HTML 1.0 transitional and press create. Now I'm going to go and split the screen. I'm going to go straight into the body tags and start coding. Now when you define this site in Dreamweaver, you'll also notice that there's a couple of notepad files and those files are for script hooks. Now I'm going to create a div and it's going to be an ID of wrapper. So if you've defined a new site and you're creating this for the first time as a test before you put it into your website, you're going to want to create the wrapper. Otherwise you're going to want to put this in whatever element you have selected within your website. Okay, so I'm also going to create a div with a class and it's going to be called class images. And every time we create a div we're going to end it with a comment to say that it's the end. It makes it nice and neat and you'll be easier to navigate through when you're looking for certain parts of the code. Okay, so I'm also going to create a div with an ID. I'm going to call that product images. Now it will be product with a capital I for the images, so make sure you've got that correct. And I'm also going to leave a comment at the end of this one, so it's the end of the product images. Now we're going to place our images inside of this div and we're going to create a placeholder, and we're going to copy and paste it a few times to save us a little bit of time there. Okay, so we've got the basic structure ready before we start putting in our images. I'm going to create my first image placeholder now. Okay, now the first div I'm going to create for the first image is going to be div ID equals image1, and we've got 3 more images after this, and I'm going to create 3 more divs, and that'll be div ID image2, image3 and image4. Now each image is going to have a class and that's going to be equal to tab, T-A-B. Now it's very important that you name it with a class of tab because that's what the script is going to look for when it rotates the images. Now I'm going to set an inline display of block for the CSS style, so I'm going to type style equals open quotations display colon block, and that's important because it's going to display our main image. Now I'm going to put in a IMG tag and I'm going to open up my properties panel and I'm going to connect that first image, and it's going to add the dimensions for the image into the IMG tag. So I've clicked on the point file icon, I've pointed over to the image 1, and we can see that that's now been input into our display. Now it's a very large image, it's 1500 by 1000 pixels. It doesn't have to be that large, but for the purposes of this tutorial that's what I'm using. Now the image file name is showing up quite strangely because I haven't saved the file, so I'm going to save that file now. I'm going to save that as protator.html and I should get my nice short file path to my images. So there we go, images/image1.jpg. Fantastic. Now it's best to use large images for your products so that when you reduce them in size it will retain some of that higher resolution. Now I'm going to change the width and height manually, and I'm going to set it to a width of 355 and a height of 288, and that will reduce that extra large image down to a nice product rotator size that we can use for our tutorial. Now we're going to create 4 smaller images, and they're going to be based off of these larger images also, and we're going to reduce the size inside of our code, our HTML code there. Okay, so now I've got the basic image structure. I'm going to copy and paste that structure another 3 times, and then I'm going to change out the names of the div. So it'll be div ID image 2, image 3 and image 4. And if we just press refresh now and look inside the design view, now that I've copied and pasted that 3 more times, we'll see there's 4 images inside of design view. So all I'm going to do now is change the div ID. So the first one's going to be image2.jpg, and I'm also going to change the ID of the div to image2, div ID image2. And I'm going to do that with the third image, and that'll be div ID image3 and image3.jpg, and div ID image4 and image4.jpg. Okay, so that's great. If I press refresh now, we'll see that the images have been changed over, and we've got our 4 separate instances there. But we only want one of those images to show at any one time. Now that first image, the div ID image 1, is set to display block. We're going to set the rest to display none. And the scripts that we attach will cycle through all of these divs and change each one from none to block on rotation. And that's how we'll get our image tabs rotating around our product rotator there. So you'll see inside design view there's only one image showing now. Okay, so the next thing I'd like to do is create a couple of CSS rules now, and I'm going to click inside of the div ID of wrapper, and I'm going to go over to the CSS panel. I'm going to click on a new CSS rule button, and I'm going to define that as wrapper. I'm going to define a new style sheet and click OK, and I'm going to call this CSS, and then I'll click save. Now I want to click and create one more rule after this, so I'm going to go back into my code. I'm going to click on the div class image and click on the new CSS rule button and define that also, and click OK and OK again, and then we'll click and go inside of the CSS, and we'll start styling our product rotator, or at least the opening wrapper. Okay, so I'm going to go inside of the wrapper div now, and I'm going to define a width of that wrapper, and I'm going to set it to 740 pixels. So I want the whole element, the whole product rotator, to fit inside of 740 pixels there. Okay, so now I'd like to set some padding on the images div class. So I'm going to set padding attribute. I'm going to set 20 pixels of padding on the top and bottom and 0 pixels of padding on the left and the right. I'm going to click refresh, and if you look inside design view, you see it's nice and snug there. 20 pixels of padding on the top and 20 pixels of padding on the bottom there. Now I'm going to go back into the source code, and I want to start creating the elements or the code necessary to create the smaller images that are going to appear inside of our product rotator. So I'm going to make a small comment, and I'm going to put smaller images, and that's so you know that the smaller images are going to go just underneath that comment there. And we're going to create an unordered list. So I'm going to create an unordered list with an ID, and I'm going to call that product images -nav -nav. It's very important that you name the unordered list, no matter what you do, that you end it with -nav, because the script we're going to use to attach is going to look so it can synchronize that main image with the smaller images. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, then just carry on, just copy what I'm doing, and you will end up with a great product rotator at the end of it, and then you can analyze it afterwards. Now I'm going to create a list item inside of the unordered list, and we're going to have to duplicate this another 4 times. Okay, so I'm going to create a link now, and this link is going to be a reference to the div tag above, which is going to be the first div tag image1. So it's going to be #image1, and that's a reference to the main image. So when the smaller image and the larger image synchronize on that rotation, they're going to look for each other. Okay, so I'm going to place an IMG tag now. So IMG, and I'm going to close that tag off, and I'm going to go down to my properties panel, and I'm going to use the points file icon, and I'm going to link up the image1.jpg to this image placeholder. So I'm going to click inside the points file, drag it over to image 1, and if we go into the design view, we can see a massive image has just appeared, just like the first one that we inserted. So we'll change the dimensions on that image and make it a lot smaller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a width, and the width is going to be 175 pixels, and I'm going to set a height, and the height is going to be 137 pixels. Okay, so if I press refresh now, we'll see that the image shrinks down to 175 pixels in width and 137 in height, and it's going there nicely with our larger image. Now we're going to put in the other 3 images that we need to go with this product rotator. For now I'm going to set an alt tag, and that's so that you can pass your validation. So I'm going to put an alternative text for the image as just jacket, and you can change it as to what you want it to be for whatever products you're using. So I've copied that whole list item tag and I'm pasting it 3 more times. And again, I'm going to change out the names of the images. So it will be a reference to the div ID image 2 and the image2.jpg. Nice and simple. This will be a reference to div ID image 3 and the image3.jpg. And once again, image 4 and image4.jpg, and that will add the rest of our images, and they'll be one on top of each other. Just press refresh. Let's have a look at that in design view properly, and there we go. So they're stacked on top of each other. Now what we need to do is try and get them to fit inside of that small space beside the larger image there, and to do that we're going to need to float them up so they stack in a nice orderly square fashion there. So I'm going to go back into my CSS, and we're going to set a CSS rule. So I'm going to type in pound product images, make sure you use the capital I, and dot tab, and this is a reference to the larger image. So if we set that larger image to float left, the containing elements will collapse, and you'll see that 2 of them have now gone and floated up beside that image, but there's not enough room at the moment, so we're going to create that little bit of extra space we need to get the others to float up. Now I'm going to set a width on the main image container to 355 pixels, and we see that the smaller images have slightly moved in there. Okay, so I'm now going to set a CSS rule for the unordered list so we can get those images into a better location. So it'll be pound product images dash nav, and that's the unordered list ID. Okay, I'm going to set a margin. Now I'm going to set that to 0 pixels on the top, 0 pixels on the right, 0 pixels on the bottom, but I'm going to set it to 360 pixels, and it's going to push those images from the left 360 pixels over. So if I press refresh now, we'll see that they stack on top of each other 360 pixels to the right position, but we still need to move those 2 bottom images up into the top right hand corner. Now I'm going to just change that to 363 pixels there, but I'm going to take the padding out of the images, because with the unordered list it comes with a standard default padding. So I'm going to take the padding out to 0 pixels, press refresh, and there we go. You can see it's moved in slightly. Okay, so I'm going to set a CSS rule for the list items now. So I'm going to go down just below the unordered list, and I'm going to type in pound product images dash nav li. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a float, and I'm going to set it to float to the left, and press refresh. Okay, so we've got our basic structure now. You can see that they've all floated up, and we've got a nice square area. Now I need to set a little bit of padding between all of the images just to get them into a nicer position so they're all separate.